Hello, welcome to the second episode of Sprituality108. To begin with, I would like to thank you everyone for spending your time listening to our podcast series and giving your valuable feedback so that we can improve and bring out new topics so that our listeners can benefit from the precious 20 minutes that you give us. And so, with that said, today we are going to discuss more about the mind, the mind aspect of a being, because mind, like as we all know, that we are composed of different aspects. Like first we have our senses, then our body, then mind. Then if we go one step further, we have intelligence. Then you reach the soul, and most of the people just want to reach the last step where they say, "Who am I? Who is God?" I mean, they are trying to reach the PhD level without even studying the kindergarten level of spiritual studies. So, so that's why, I mean, we all know that we have five senses. We have two hands, two legs, two eyes, one nose, and all that. One step above that is the mind, the tool that which we all use to operate and work in this material world. And using that efficiently is the most important part of living here, because that is something which dictates how your life is going to be, either good or bad. Like wherever you push the needle, that way it will go. If you are just stuck in a rut of negative thoughts, negative behaviors, destructive thought processes, that's where you will land up. So it becomes very important to learn how to use this tool that we constantly have in our mind, like in our body, and like we live with ourselves 24/7. So the one book which really helped me grasp this concept and really understand why we constantly have the thought processes running 24/7 is a book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. It was a book written around 20 years or so back, but it is still relevant today, because mind as a mechanism is still the same across ages. It will still not change going further.
Yes.
So basically, the whole point of the author is that we are a separate entity from the mind. So if the mind just keeps on just going on and on with the thought processes, we have to learn to disidentify with that. And eventually, by doing that, you will reach your own self. As you mentioned in the start, that who we are is much above the mind. And to even reach that point, we have to learn to separate ourselves from that entity which is just having desires, judging things, saying this is good or this is bad. It just like, okay, you finish like playing a game. Now it will say, okay, I want to eat this thing. Then it will say, okay, now I want to watch a movie. Then it will say, okay, I want to go outside, and like it will just keep on desiring things on and on again. So at some point you have to say, okay, is this who am I? Is that thought process who am I? So eventually you have to, I mean, it will not happen overnight. It will, you have to slowly learn, and slowly through various techniques, you have to um, identify that, okay, that's not me, but then who am I? So that will happen gradually and slowly. um, so it is like mind, the work of the mind is to create thoughts. It is like saying, like, how can you tell a cow to stop giving milk? You can't, right? It's like the cow will produce milk, and so the mind, it will give thoughts. It is its job to do that. Otherwise, I mean, what are we even doing here? I mean, you can't live a bland life just like sit like a stone. No, right? So
I think, yeah, what Chirag mentioned, sorry, excuse me, what Chirag mentioned about this mind and the body and kind of soul, it comes to these three terms, on and off. So, yeah, one cannot completely disidentify them from mind. Innately, one is configured in such a way as a human that you are seeing yourself as a mind together. You cannot have like segregation of mind, body, soul in when you're born. You cannot just like know that they're different things. So I think as the time proceeds, we have certain type of tools. Right, you mentioned about the book, which is very famous. I've heard a lot of people reading that, and it has worked out for few people to be now in present, kind of that thing. And being in present automatically identifies oneself different from mind, body, and soul, because that is the way you can easily, have a differentiation, demarcation between the three entities. So yeah, this I have come across with this book. I not read it, but a lot of people I've seen posting them, and this is very famous book on spirituality, and then it's kind of 101 for all the newbies or amateur people out there. So yeah, fair thing to read it. And at the same time, what you mentioned about the one really good example, you cannot ask a cow to stop producing milk. That's its basic dharma, or the gun dharma, or I would say the basic application, that you cannot have your mind to not manifest some thoughts. Thoughts are going to happen, they will come, you have to accept them how they are. Or you may, once you start fighting against them, or you start thinking that this is not what you want to think, then the mind will become your enemy. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that in sixth chapter, that mind can be your best friend, or it can be your worst enemy. So there are two alternatives here. So it's good to be safer to be on the zone where mind becomes a friend. And the whole process of self-realization, or reading these books, or meditation, yoga, everything in the world is also having the focus of identifying yourself differently from mind, and helping yourself to innately feel that experience. If he tells me, or I tell myself, or some other person who's so called very renowned or famous in the world about spirituality tells me, yeah, this is how it is. See, I can listen and I can read it, or I can think in that way, but unless I don't experience it myself, that whole experience, it's not that effective enough that I can identify myself different from mine. So I have to reach to a stage, and in that process, all the things definitely help us, right?
Right. So yeah, as you said, like from chapter 6, right? So the same point that even Arjuna is like a great
Mm-hmm.
warrior who has like learned from the gods themselves. He has gone to heavens, learned from Indra, and learned from so many other great people.
Yes.
Even he's finding like too
Hard.
tough to control the mind. He says like it's like controlling the wind.
Yes.
So it's that tough even for him. So who are we? We are like ants in front of him. So Lord Krishna says that with repeated practice, with a like a proper discipline and a repeated practice, you can
It
do
is
that.
possible.
So you have to practice. Like even for him, he has to practice
Right.
to to how to navigate the mind.
Yes.
So we definitely have to learn first what to do and how to do.
Right, right. I think adding to that, we have a very transitory life where we know that we're supposed to do this. So there's a lot of to-do list in our life. So mind is quite occupied in that. So uh, getting to a stage where you start thinking mind is a different story can give you a different experience altogether. And that is where blissfulness, or kind of that happiness, or mindfulness, all these fancy terms comes into the picture, I would say. That once you start experiencing even in the slightest extent, extent about that thing, that that you are different than mind, through whatever the process, approach it. But you have some verified and trusted sources, like be it meditation, yoga, listening to someone who has already attained that particular stage. This will accelerate your journey towards it, or it may help you, but at the end of the day, it's like it's all going down to your own self, how you
Right.
take it. But working towards it has to be a specific clarity and purpose, that I want to identify myself first differently from the mind. Now again, if someone people don't want to even do that, so then that's completely out of the picture, that thing. Yeah.
Right. So it's like if you have a dog in your house, like you can't tell him, okay, sit down and meditate. It's like no, it is not his like
It's not his
role.
genre. Yes.
Like it's not his role on earth to do that.
Right.
But we as humans, we can think for ourselves.
Right.
We have that certain level of
Intelligence.
intelligence, certain level of comfort. We are in like a nice house. We have food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
Because basic things are taken care. Like if you go
Yeah,
according to
yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy chain, we are like pretty much in the like sorted in the sense of lower level things.
Right, right.
So if you keep doing that, then how different are you from other beings on this earth?
Right,
So
right. Yeah, I think that's why the mind thing comes into picture. That you have a mind, so apply it and question and
right,
ask why for everything, and till when. So coming to the same thing, that the one way I could see mind is different is uh, when you are at a stage in your life. where you are not having any kind of thoughts, or you are being in the present moment. I would say, if you go to a very fancy, beautiful natural spot, automatically you feel a very soothing vibe, and then you start, for a moment you feel little bit disconnected from your own thoughts. You just start being one with the nature. So being one with the nature is basically you are being in that present zone where you're visiting or seeing something. So that experience is also a transitory, or just like a specimen of what being mindful is. You are, for that moment, you are completely pausing the switch, pausing the button of mind to get, okay, hold on, hey guy, hold on, give me few minutes. I want to explore the world as it is, and you are again, letting yourself experience the whole process in that, without mind and thoughts which are already there in your mind. Baggage is there, but you are shutting it off for a transient period over there, and that shutting process automatically happens with certain atmosphere around you, right?
Right, you're not even trying.
Right. At home you can try very hard to do it. It may not be possible, but sometimes when you visit on weekends at a very
Right,
very
right.
very very good natural spot, it helps you, that thing helps you to accelerate that particular stage where you want to reach. So I think it's also important that ambience around us, or the company, or the talks, or the thoughts, everything, and even food also help.
Yeah,
Every process
definitely.
is playing a huge role in realizing you are different than mind, or you are mind itself, or you want to segregate yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, so actually that brings me to my next topic, that when you say, okay, now I want to do this, and as you said that, okay, when you go out in nature or if you're giving an exam, you are like highly present. No one needs to
Yes.
tell you.
Yes.
You are highly focused. And when you're giving an exam, like if you are like aspiring for
Mhm.
like a seat in some prestigious
Yes.
institute,
Yes.
you're not trying to be present. You're not saying, okay, I want to be present. Okay,
You're
how to be
naturally there.
It is naturally there. You're not trying to be mindful. You're
Yes.
meditating.
Right.
So when you're in nature or you visit like whatever places like Paris, or you're not, I mean, you're not trying to be there. So you know that you can do that. You know that you can separate yourself from your mind, but it's not permanent state.
Yes,
It's a
exactly.
transient state.
Very, very important. Yes.
So at some point you need to develop that state where you're always there.
Right.
It's not a period of 5 minutes in a day.
Or 3
It
hours
can-
of examination.
Right. So you can start with 30 seconds in a day.
Right.
When you're meditating, okay, right, oh, like you are very focused. So eventually you need to go to a point that you are present.
You sustain for a longer
You
time.
can sustain, and then after once you do that, you can go beyond in your own journey. But so one thing that really helped me do that was focusing on your breath. Eckhart mentions it. A lot of other philosophers have told about it. Like even the practitioners have told. Because breath is something that is always with you, and it can be both. It can go on automatically, or you can do it. You can focus on it and then try to slow down your breath. So it's like it goes two ways. It is happening in the background, like if you're sitting, like if you're just like driving a vehicle, it just happens. You're not thinking, oh, I need to breathe. No, it just happens automatically. But when you take the control in your own hand and you try to just be there, and you just try to stay with your breath, like it's like breath going in and out. So in that process, you are taking the control back from your mind, because otherwise so that is like an anchor point. Like a ship is docked on a like it
On a port.
on a port.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's docked on a port, right? So it needs an anchor to just stay there.
Yes.
So breath is same like that.
Very well, very well. This is a fabulous example.
So you need an anchor to
Right.
to bring yourself. Like let's say you are like sitting there, like
Or you will be wavering with the wind.
Exactly.
You need an anchor.
You're at some point you are just sitting there, but your thoughts are going so much that at some point you need to bring yourself back,
So
like
hold your ground firm.
to whatever you're doing, right?
Yep.
To whatever you're doing. So
Yeah, it happens for most of us.
Yeah, definitely.
No matter, we are not big sannyasis or yogis.
because you have the same mind, right?
Yeah.
Like these mind, like it's not that you're programmed separately than me. Most of us
Right.
have come from the same background.
Right.
Same, like we watch the same
Movie,
media.
series, yeah,
We
everything.
watch the same content. We're taking the same information. So naturally, the programming is not that different for all of us. So what works for Eckhart has worked for a few people, and it might work for us. So,
Yeah.
but breath is something that has been done throughout the ages, like
Yes,
pranayama, meditation.
Yes.
It's been accepted as
This
a
is power
science.
of breath. Yes.
It doesn't accept it as a science. Even like from my personal example, even top neurologists and psychologists, they have told to do pranayama, even for someone who has like a like a neurological disease,
Mhm.
even they have told to do pranayam, and they are like the top experts of their field. So it has been widely accepted that just controlling or changing your breath can change your life technically.
Right, right. I think it's again what Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna asks, frankly, that hey, how can I, stop these thoughts, and how can this, because mind is it's so trickling that it is very tricky that it's like just goes like a wind, and the thoughts come and go. You cannot stop a wind, right? You just cannot stop a wind just by hand. Okay, so that's not going to happen. So what you mentioned, that being in present, breath helps, because when you start breathing consciously, the word consciously is very important over here.
Consciously, yes.
So when you start breathing consciously, what happens is you are literally seeing exhale and inhale of your body, and you're seeing it actually happening in within you. So again, you're identifying yourself as you, and something is happening with you. Mind and thoughts are all a virtual dimension, which is, it's not happening, it's the thoughts process going in your mind. So it's not manifesting at that point, but breath is actually manifesting, going in and going out. So what is happening, that mind is absorbing that particular, information, that hey, I have to, see how it exhales and how it inhales. So it get conscious about its own, pattern of breathing. And what happens in that process is our brain and mind syncs in such a way that, they start feeling that being in present is more conscious. Because if you see some patterns is, once you start breathing, you will also feel your body as well. You can start focusing on different parts of the body as well, and it will help you. But in general, if you do, you're not sure what is going on in your body. But when you start breathing, and when you think about any specific body part, or like just say you want to think about your ear, eyes, anything, then you will just consciously remember it very easily, because you are actually being in that moment where you can focus on a certain area, because you are literally feeling in and out, breathing in and out, and that is very where your mind is actually mindful in that business.
Right, right.
It's not having other clutters, which is a regular business of it. But yeah, so that's how it is. Being conscious of breathing helps you to be at a stage where you are able to identify yourself with you first. And once you start identifying yourself with you, now it opens the door to identify mind as a separate entity,
Right,
because
right.
you are not mind and mind is not you. It's although together as an entity, they are packed together. But that realization comes when you start believing that, oh, I was someone who was thinking 10,000 things in last 5 minutes, and I'm the same person who is thinking nothing in next 5 minutes.
And those,
How did shock happen? Then, oh, that means I'm not that person at all. Maybe a combination, maybe I'm something else. So that question should trigger automatically if you are mindful in being that, doing that practice what you mentioned.
right,
So
right.
pranayam helps, yes. Other techniques are there, yoga, a lot of techniques are there around the world to have the breath control and being in that moment.
But those have to be learned under proper guidance,
Yes,
because
very
it can
important.
go either ways.
Yes.
It can create a new being out of you, but if not done in the right way, it can even bring like disastrous effects.
Yeah, so most important point what you mentioned over here, I want to specifically emphasize it. People are very fancy in today's world. It's a YouTube world. You a lot of self-made yogis, you a lot of babas, you a lot of mindful teachers and all these things, spiritual people preaching how to do Kundalini awakening, how to do meditation, how to do yoga, and all these things. They are for their views. Yeah, very good. If they're doing something good for the humanity, no offense, which is good. But one should learn anything under a specific guidance, no matter whatever their beliefs are, but be in person and learn some under someone's guidance. Don't do it on virtual media and learn it on YouTube. How to do that? Prefer to have a in-person guidance for anyone you want to do something. Don't do it virtually, because this is a very subtle process. You may alter your inner body process in this manifesting and all this thing, self doing everything and realizing you can learn on YouTube how to be a great spiritualist. That's not the way. You should learn in a certain proper guidance and then have a feedback with them. What are your thoughts? It should not be a virtual way. Yeah.
Right, right. So, like basically, you can start off with just focusing on your breath and just seeing how you're breathing. But then, if you want to go to advanced practices like pranayam and like doing proper yoga with pranayam and all that, so that has to be done under proper guidance.
Right. Right.
And
Because exactly, why it is important, because there's two things: imagination and reality. Okay, you might become delusional in the process of being mindful and breath and getting focus. So you start imagining that who are you and who is mine, but the reality is different. So if you do it in a right way, with the right guidance, with the right person, in person rather, not virtual. Any person who is having the knowledge is fine, but you should do it in person and having a session with them, not like a virtual thing. So that demarcation of imagination and reality is very important in even realizing your mind, what is you. That thing is very important, because
Right,
if you
right,
become imagination, it comes, oh, I'm not this mind, I am something else.
Right.
But that is an imaginating thing. You cannot identify the reality from imagination unless you don't have a specific guidance with you, right?
Right. It's like saying, okay, so many people have told I'm not this, so you yourself have not realized it, but you know that so many people have told, so that must be true.
Yes.
And you start believing that.
Yes.
But you yourself have not done any work towards it,
Yes.
or neither you have realized it.
Oh, yeah, it's not authentic. It's very.
It should
it's
be
authentic
organic.
and genuine, and you should feel that complete clarity what you're doing. You cannot
Yeah.
imagine that you are not mind, and you cannot do imaginations over here.
Right, right.
It will take some time. It's a process. One has to go through it, and it is a unique thing where everyone has their own experience. But it's advisable. It's wise to do in someone's guidance. That's what I would also recommend.
Yeah, definitely.
And this
So-
will help all of the people who at least want to get some time out. I would say the word time out is very important from the thoughts and clutter of mind and baggage, because we all of us, as a normal day-to-day routine, we have a lot of thoughts, and we need some solace, I would say a solitude, or even that blissful stage where we are having a pause phase of
Right,
thoughts.
right.
Need not to be great thoughts, anything, just have a pause for whatever the time you can sustain, and that practicing the same thing over the time, the sustenance happens more, and it becomes very easy to go with the flow, and then organically your body and mind will be kind of a friend with you, because as Krishna tells, mind can be best friend. So we want to go on that domain rather than becoming the worst enemy. So let's go step by step gradually towards that particular segment, and that can help us.
Yeah,
What do you think?
definitely. Yeah. So yeah,
You can
our
try the book.
advice would be to start. You can start with the book, and
Even I
we'll
myself need to try.
yeah. So we'll take off the conversation from where we left off the next time, and thank you for listening again. And
We hope to see you soon next week. And no, that's next week. We have like a long weekend. So
okay,
yeah, we hope to see you soon. Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.